Got an intro or anything? Hey everybody out there in Pot TV land, it's Marius Stoner and welcome to the first edition of the Stoner Report. This is going to be, like I did the last couple of weeks, a brief recap of the week's headlines as per drug issues and marijuana issues. And this is just going to be a short, kind of all-round recap, so that because Jeremiah focuses on things and has long conversations, so this is going to be a little bit of a different format. So let's see what happened in the news this week. So just give me a second. And Jeremiah's going to be monitoring the sound for me this week. How does it sound over there, Jer?
So far, so good, Marius.
Okay, excellent. And let me see if I can find the chat window too. There we go. Yeah, this Cannabis Culture News Live will be at 4 p.m. today, as per usual. And hello, everybody in chat. So the week started off with cops or police organizations in the United States crying foul over Eric Holder, saying he's going to reduce mandatory minimums and change the laws as pertaining to drug possession. And here's what's let's have a look here. Okay, this is another one from Phil Smith at Stop the Drug War. Organized law enforcement has some problems with Attorney General Holder's announcement last week that Justice Department would not seek to block Colorado and Washington from implementing their marijuana legalization laws. In a joint letter last Friday, the leaders of 7 major law enforcement groups expressed extreme disappointment with the move. Those law enforcement groups are the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Major County Sheriff's Association, the National Sheriff's Association, the Major Cities Chiefs Association, the Association of State Criminal Investigations Agency, the National Narcotics Officers Association Coalition, and the Police Executive Review Foundation. While law enforcement has long argued that its role is to enforce the law, not set policy, the Police Association clearly felt they should have had input on the Justice Department's decision-making process. It is unacceptable that the Department of Justice did not consult our organization, whose members will be directly impacted, for meaningful input ahead of this important decision, the cops wrote. Our organizations were given notice just 30 minutes before the official announcement was made public, and were not given adequate forum ahead of time to express our concerns with the department's conclusion on this matter. Simply checking the box by alerting law enforcement officials right before a decision is announced is not enough, and certainly does not show an understanding of the value of federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement partnerships, bringing the Department of Justice and Public Safety Commission. Beyond the issues with this process, the law enforcement groups made it clear that they did not agree with the policy decision. The sky would fall if people could buy and smoke legally, the cops warned. Well, we'll stop it there. Obviously, the police aren't happy, and whatever reasons they give is rather ridiculous, because when you think about it, and I think I mentioned this last week, having medical marijuana laws not only helps people who need it for their medical needs, it also reduces alcoholism, the studies have shown, and traffic accidents. So not only are they claiming that legalizing marijuana is going to incur harm onto the society. It's actually the exact opposite of it. And I'm sure they know this, and everybody knows this. So I would basically ignore what they have to say at this point. They really have no, they're not supposed to have any say anyway into policy. They're supposed to enforce policy. And, it just goes to show how corrupt the American system is, that this stuff is going on and nobody's calling them to account for it. And very predictable move, too. So at the same time, there are saner voices, obviously, in America, even in high places. Not high enough yet. Senator Leahy says that the Fed shouldn't waste time on the state marijuana laws. It's easy both to understate and overstate the significance of the Justice Department's announcement Thursday that it would not immediately challenge the new regulations in Colorado and Washington that aim to legalize and tax the sale and recreational use of marijuana. It's a bigger deal than you might think because the Feds forewent litigation. Surely they would have won to block those voter-endorsed state initiatives. As a matter of constitutional law, the Obama administration was, and still is, within its rights to argue that these state laws are preempted by federal law and policy. But last week's announcement is not nearly as big a deal as it could have been had the Obama administration answered the many vital legal and political questions that still remain about marijuana's quickening march towards respectability. As we know today, that we didn't know a week from today, is that there will be no immediate litigation. That the Obama administration is content, at least for now, to allow Colorado and Washington to come up with a way to safely regulate pot like alcohol and tobacco. Unfortunately, the Feds didn't even try to resolve the pot debate. They just agreed to let it unfold a little longer. So many questions remain. For example, about the capital and the credit industry needs to thrive. The Justice Department did nothing last week to offer any clarity to honest entrepreneurs in the burgeoning legal marijuana industry who are vexed by regulations that forbid banks from loaning money for ventures considered illegal under federal law. Bankers are concerned that they could be seen as having laundered money, aiding and abetting a crime. Representative Ed Pullmantur told Fox 31 Denver last week. Many financial institutions won't provide financial services. Consequently, it becomes an all-cash business, and when it's all cash, you're subject to more robberies. Well, that's kind of funny considering the CIBC scandal. I'm not sure if the banks are too afraid of helping people out, laundering money, but I suppose you have to be big enough and in bed with the governments already for them to do it for you. Yeah, it is a. I like to think of the analogy of us weathering down a mountain, or the weather weathering down a mountain. Like, we keep taking out pebbles of it, and eventually it'll wear down, and it'll be flat, and you can call that even ground where everybody's equal. But it's one step at a time, slow steps. So it's not going to happen all of a sudden overnight, even though we might wish it to. And this is just another indication. Later on in this Atlantic story, actually near the end, it says Senator Leahy's opinion, but I won't read any more of this article because I'm limited for time. Getting close to halfway through the show, I have to be done by 1:30 because Jeremiah's going to set up for his show, and I want this show to be brief. Bad news in North Carolina, as the legislature has overturned a drug test bill veto that the governor, he vetoed it. North Carolina's Republicans say Governor Pat McCrory last month vetoed a welfare drug testing bill championed by his own party in the legislature, saying that it was a recipe for government overreach and unnecessary government intrusion, and not a smart way to combat drug abuse. But this week, the legislature managed to override that veto. What's the point of a veto if it can be overridden? The votes in the House Tuesday and Senate Wednesday, the Republican-controlled legislature chose to move forward with the drug test, which will require some welfare applicants to pay out of their own pockets for drug testing before they can receive benefits. The legislation, House Bill 392, will require people applying for the state's welfare and food stamp program to undergo drug testing if social service workers determine that there is reasonable suspicion that they are using drugs. It will also require county workers to ensure that applicants do not have outstanding felony warrants and were not violating probation. The votes to override were sharply criticized by the civil liberties advocates. It's very disappointing that the legislature has put so much effort into passing this cruel and constitutionally suspect bill. HB 392 does nothing to help those who test positive for drug use and get treatment, but it does allow the government to conduct costly, unnecessary, and unreasonable intrusive searches of North Carolinians who seek public assistance to care for their families, said ACLU of North Carolina Policy Director Sarah Preston in a Wednesday statement. Well, obviously this is very bad. I hadn't heard of a way to veto a veto, but that seems to happen in North Carolina. Can I say, you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back sometimes, and this is definitely a step back.
Marius, you're using Camlight for that. It sounds like you're using the Camlight.
Oh, seriously?
It's okay. It's not bad, but I can just hear
No, you're right. I should have checked that beforehand. Yeah, it is. There, how's that? I'm sorry about that, guys. I actually had a little accident before I started the show today, so I'm a little bit out of sorts.
It's silent
So,
now. You got no sound there.
yeah, it was silent for a second.
Okay. Yeah,
Should be okay now.
okay.
So I'm a little out of sorts, and next week I'll be back normally, hopefully. In other news, the DEA is listening to you. All your calls belong to us. The original article had all your calls belong to us. I just added the old meme for those of you who want to look up all your base belong to us. That's where it's from. Well, this sure makes the Patriot Act seem quaint. On Monday, the New York Times revealed that since 2007, the DEA and other drug law enforcement officials have had routine access to an enormous AT&T database which contains the records of decades of the most Americans' phone calls. The secretive, previously undisclosed Hemisphere project covers a much longer time, 26 years, than even the National Security Agency's recently disclosed collection of phone call logs, which stored data on nearly all Americans' phone calls for just 5 years. And unlike the NSA, the Hemisphere project records data about the location of callers rather than just phone numbers and time and duration of calls. This year marks the 40th anniversary of President Nixon's establishment of the DEA. With an annual budget of more than $2.4 billion, not to mention 227 field offices and 86 foreign offices in 62 countries. We have one here, by the way, unmarked. The DEA contains merits of a top-to-bottom review of its operations expenditure. The DEA certainly merits a top-to-bottom review of its operations, expenditures, and discretionary actions. According to the Times, the project comes to light at a time of vigorous public debate over the proper limits on government surveillance and on the relationship between government agencies and the communications companies. It offers the most significant look to date at the use of such large-scale data for law enforcement rather than national security. The scale of longevity of the drug storage appears to be unmatched by other government programs, including the NSA's gathering of phone call logs under the Patriot Act. And that one's from Alternate. Now we we all know, or at least we've figured out, that the drug laws are simply out there. They're not helping anybody who are drug users anyway. I mean, they're helping people who are making money off of it. But they're simply out there to control the public. Some way, if you act out against the government, or you become an activist, or anything of that nature, they need laws out there in order to come get you. And so the drug laws are just one way of doing that. They don't help people when. If people are suffering from drug abuse, they shouldn't be thrown in jail. It just exacerbates the situation. So it's the fact that people have been using these laws to collect information on the American people, and all over the world, countries all over the world have drug laws and spy on their citizens in some way or another. It's nothing to do with the public good. It's everything to do with the control and manipulation of people. Now, Tim Hortons banned Sensible BC, but Jeremiah's going to feature that on that show, so I'm going to pass that one by.
We're talking to Dana Larson.
Yeah, Dana Larson's going to be on, and I'm sure he'll have lots to say. In Puerto Rico, which is, I believe, one of 4 territories of the U.S., which is not quite a state, but not quite their own country. Legislators in Puerto Rico are preparing to debate a bill that would allow people to use marijuana for medicinal purposes in the conservative U.S. territory. Representative Jose Baez, one of 2 authors, said Thursday the measure would create a system to legally produce the substance and allow the state health officials to regulate it. The bill calls for a classification of medical conditions and requirements that would allow patients to smoke marijuana in their homes. Conditions would range from cancer to glaucoma to anxiety. So there's a good sign. One of the territories is moving forward. It looks like everywhere there's people trying to legalize it, in the States, in Canada, and all over the world. And it's good to see that happening. In Australia, and on that note, in Australia, the Hemp Party, HEMP, launches the official campaign for legalization of marijuana. So that's good news for all you Aussies down there, getting that on the Barbie. The Health End Marijuana Prohibition, or Hemp, Party of Australia officially launched its election campaign on Monday in Sydney's Hyde Park. Party representatives, including Hemp President Michael Balderstone, were on hand to call for the regulated sale of cannabis to the public. The Hemp Party is an organization with the aim of endorsing candidates to contest elections to the Federal Parliament of Australia, states the party's website. Any person on the electoral roll and eligible to vote in the elections to the Parliament is eligible to become a member of the Hemp Party. There are no initial or annual membership fees. Currently in Australia, hemp products are illegally grown under license for industrial purposes. However, sale is still restricted from consumers, Reuters reported. Jen Lay, who suffers from both breast cancer and chronic regional pain syndrome, joined hemp in distributing leaflets explaining the party's stance on marijuana's legalization. So that's good news. I'm not sure when the elections are in Australia, but if you're Australian, join the Hemp Party. I don't know what the politics are. It's really hard to say, oh, vote this way or vote that way. But if you can strategically vote for the hemp party, do so. Otherwise, support them in any way you can. Another bit of good news, an Arizona boy, a 5-year-old boy from Mesa, Arizona, has been issued a medical marijuana card. A Mesa family plans to give medical marijuana to their 5-year-old son to treat his seizures caused by genetic brain defect. Xander Welton suffers from seizures caused by a genetic brain defect. His parents say the condition, coupled with autism, keep the 5-year-old from communicating. After hearing how marijuana has helped other disabled kids, Jacob and Jennifer Welton applied for the card. So that's good news. There's similar situation in New Jersey, where the governor Chris Christie had to relent and allow young people to use medical marijuana, and if it helps stop somebody's seizures, no matter what age they are, well, you know, it's hard for me to comment on something that's so self-explanatory.
Marius, you're up on this bong whenever you want, brother.
Oh, thank you. I will, yeah, I'll take the bong rip, and then I'll just go on to the last story.
Oh, I got a lighter here for me, too.
Was that Chris Christie that asked that?
In New Jersey?
Yeah.
Well, this was from a couple of weeks ago that Chris Christie did allow.
That is actually crazy.
He's the governor.
He's the government. Yeah.
Because he's considered to be one of the front runners for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
So that would become
But
one
he
of the issues probably.
didn't want to run this like the last election, and they really wanted him to run.
There's a lot of Republicans coming out for legalization these days.
He's getting ready for it. He got his stomach staples just so he could slim down.
Yeah.
Definitely next time he's gonna try.
Yeah, you're probably right.
He's a cron.
So, thanks to Jeremiah for that bong rip.
You're welcome. Uh-oh.
Everything okay?
Went black on my screen. But I couldn't just
Oh
get
no,
in
it said that. Oh,
You're back on mine.
we're back. Okay.
We've been
It
having
said-
some internet issues this week.
Yeah, I didn't actually plug the
I know you're on wireless, but it should be okay.
wireless. So okay,
That
we're
should
back
be
now.
good.
Sorry about that brief blackout. Actually, there's going to be 2 more stories. I think I have time quickly to do them. Broad Coalition seeks Capitol Hill hearings on the DEA surveillance. Spurred by recent revelations of the DEA using NSA and CIA programs ostensibly designed to fight terrorism to try to make drug cases, but grounded in decades of festering concern over the DEA's bull-in-a-china shop behavior, a broad coalition of more than 120 groups Thursday asked Congress to hold hearings on the agency. Citing an August Reuters report on the DEA's use of NSA spying data to make drug cases and to hide the NSA connection from prosecutors and judges, and a September New York Times story on how the DEA makes use of AT&T phone traffic databases to make cases against U.S. citizens, the groups called on the House and Senate Judiciary and Oversight Committees to hold broad hearings to investigate the DEA and hold it accountable for its actions. The implications of the Reuters revelations are serious and far-reaching. Since the Edward Snowden NSA revelations, the American public has been continuously told the Obama administration and others that such programs do not constitute a domestic spying program, and that the programs are solely used for counter-terrorism purposes. The news that the DEA is using such programs in domestic drug cases directly contradicts both these assertions. The coalition said in a letter sent to the relevant committee chairs and ranking members, copied to the copied to Attorney General Holder. Additionally, we believe that by covering up the origins of evidence it obtained, the DEA has violated the constitutional rights of many Americans and created judicial chaos, the letter continued. Indeed, lawyers seeking to review certain cases and convictions have been stymied by the fact that authorities will not inform them when and where such methods were used. The letter was signed by more than 120 groups, both domestic and international, from across the political spectrum. Signatories included the ACLU, Witness for Peace, the Eli Baker Center for Human Rights, Global Exchange, Witness for Peace, is listed twice, the Drug Policy Alliance, and numerous U.S. drug reform groups, including StopTheDrugWar.org, the International Drug Policy Consortium, which represents more than 160 non-governmental organizations. Well, obviously the shit's hitting the fan now, showing what the DEA is all about, and basically trying to politically subvert the U.S. and preventing marijuana from being used medicinally. The proof of that is actually in our next story that just came out today. Because apparently 25 years ago, the DEA's own administrative law judge ruled that cannabis should be reclassified for medicinal purposes. Friday, September 6, 2013 marks the 25th anniversary of the administrative ruling which determined that cannabis possesses accepted medical utility and ought to be reclassified according to federal law. The ruling, issued in 1988 by the U.S. DEA Chief Administrative Law Judge Francis Young, in the matter of marijuana rescheduling, determined marijuana in its natural form is one of the safest therapeutically active substances known to man. By any measure of rational analysis, marijuana can safely be used within a supervised routine of medical care. Young continued, it would be unreasonable, arbitrary, and capricious for the DEA to continue to stand between those sufferers and the benefits of this substance in the light of the evidence of this record. Judge Young concluded, the administrative law judge recommends that the administrator conclude that the marijuana plant considered as a whole has currently accepted medical use in treatment in the United States, that there is no lack of accepted safety for its use under medical supervision, and that it may be lawfully transferred from Schedule I to Schedule II of the Federal Controlled Substances Act. 25 years ago, in 1988, the DEA knew, their judge ruled, that medical marijuana was effective for people. So since then, every one of you DEA fucks, and I mean it, you guys are fucks, have been murdering Americans, murdering people around the world because you know what you're doing is wrong. You know you're stopping people from getting messages. So if you're listening to me, and I know you are because you're listening to everybody, fuck you. Stop it. Anyway, so that's the Stoner Report for this week. Really?
Right at the end, yeah.
Are we back?
No, not yet.
Well, let's see what happens.
Black.
Maybe they didn't like our content.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, okay, we're back. In case you missed that, I just told the DEA to stop it because they're murdering people, because in 1988 they knew that marijuana was effective, their own judge. So if you didn't catch any part of that, fuck you, DEA, here, I'll do it again. Fuck you, DEA. Stop murdering people. So on that happy note, I will end the Stoner Report for this week. And don't forget, marijuana is out there. It has all our answers. So just believe in it and just don't lose faith. All right? Until next time, take care. Peace out.